Okay, guys, we're live. I'm just going to give it a second to connect to Facebook. So, just going to give it a minute. If you're tuning in on YouTube or LinkedIn, let me know in the comments. Make sure that you're able to see me. And we've got Facebook here. Just go here and we'll connect on Instagram too. Okay, guys, I think we're good. Great. So, live on Instagram, live on all the platforms. We're here. We're doing well this Tuesday afternoon. I hope you're all having a great day, a great week so far. I know that this is a super, super busy, hectic time of the year. A lot of people, right? It's full of plans, travel, family gatherings, school events, right? Thanksgiving is literally next week for those of you who are in the States, which is wild. I don't know what happened to those last year. It's just flown by. And my goal today is super, super simple. So I really just want to help you navigate this time of the year so that, you could still feel amazing come January. Without dieting, without restricting, without any food guilt, without trying to be perfect, just simple habits, not even habits, just simple things to keep in mind to build momentum during this time of the year. Because here's the thing, like no matter what, like this time of the year is always going to be busy, right? Every year it's the same deal. And you still need to prioritize you, right? Especially when there's a lot going on. And not in a way that adds more to your plate, right? Not in a way that adds any pressure, but in a way that actually helps you take on everything that the holidays have to offer, right? And everything that the holidays throw at you, right? As exciting as the holidays can be, there's a lot that goes on, but there's also, it also requires a lot more energy, right? More stability. You're socializing more. Like it could be a bit draining at times. So just a way for you to increase your capacity during this busy time of the year. And I'll tell you something that we see every single year with the women that we work with is that the women who commit to themselves at this time of the year, who join our program at this time of the year, they always do the best. And it's not because they're more motivated. It's not because, they have all this extra time to focus on themselves, which is definitely not the case at this time of the year. It's because they learn how to make it work during this chaotic season. So when life does eventually calm down, and I don't really believe life ever really does calm down if we're being honest with each other, but it settles down a bit after the holidays. They've locked in those habits automatically, right? So if they can make it work during the craziest times of the year, it sticks the best. And if on the other hand, like if you're always waiting for life to, things to quiet down, life to slow down before ever starting something, you're basically reinforcing the idea that you'll stop again the next time that life gets busy again. So that really defeats the purpose, right? So today we're going to break down 3 things that you could focus on during this time of the year so you could look and feel amazing in January without needing a perfect routine. So we're going to get right into it. If you're hopping on whichever platform you're watching on, Instagram, I'm looking at you here. If you're hopping on, make sure to comment below that you could see me. And if you're watching on LinkedIn, YouTube, our free Facebook group, comment below as well. So, and if you're new on any of the other platforms, and over the last 10 years, my team and I have helped over the age of 35 just really get their bodies responding again by working with their unique biology. So we don't do restriction. We don't do any extremes. It's really about teaching and guiding your body to communicate better as a whole so that your hormones and systems in your body actually do what they need to do. So especially during busy seasons like this. I'm getting a phone call right now, so let me just shut that off. Okay, perfect, guys. So we're ready to go. So again, this time of the year can feel like a lot, right? Like I said before, the travel, the events, the food, right? The lack or change of routine. It's so easy to fall into this trap of, I'll just start fresh as of January, or it's too busy to commit to anything right now, or I want to wait until I'm able to be 100% in. But the truth is, you don't need a perfect routine to stay on track. You just need consistency and intention. And these are the 3 things these 3 things I'm going to share with you today that will just help you feel more grounded, feel better without having to do a complete overhaul on your life. So the first one is, and this is a common one that we see with a lot of the women that we work with, type A, high performing women, is ditching the all or nothing. So that all or nothing mentality. This is again one of the number one barrier that I see a lot of high performing women struggle with. It's something that I personally used to struggle with, and I still have sometimes, those tendencies creep up again. And especially during the holidays, right? Like the idea that if you can't do something perfectly, or like if you can't complete your entire routine perfectly, then you might as well do nothing at all. Right. And if you've ever felt this way, you're definitely not alone feeling this way. But the reality is, progress comes from consistency, not perfection. Right. So let's just say like that, normally you work out 3 to 4 times a week. I'm just, 3 or 4 times a week, perhaps like 30 to 40 minutes. But during the holidays coming around, you know that you're only going to have like pockets of maybe like 15 to 20 minutes, maybe that's 2 to 3 times a week. That doesn't mean that it's not worth doing anything at all. And ways that you could even adjust this, the way that I like to go about it, knowing like, first off, come December, I know that things are going to get a bit busier for me just because I'm going to be traveling more. I even right now, like I'm not in my usual setup. So that's changed my routine a bit too. But whenever I go into a month where I know it's going to be busier, more travel, more social events, again, holidays, holiday events, I'm going to be hosting, I'm going to people's houses, right? I like to like lay out my calendar and just find pockets of time where I could realistically commit to, like that workout that I'd usually commit to. And honestly, like I treat it as an appointment with myself, right? So I'll plug it in ahead of time so that it's locked in my calendar. I have my Google Calendar, so it's locked in there. And it's literally like an appointment with myself, right? So whereas other times though, I know, okay, like this day is going to be jam packed. I'm not going to have time for a 30-minute workout. I'm going to adjust my workout by doing, like, for example, if usually I do 4 sets during my workout, I'll just reduce it to 2 sets. Or if I usually do 10 to 12 reps of an exercise, I'll do it, 5 to 8 reps, focusing on a heavier weight. Or, just basically I'll focus on more intensity instead of duration. So I'll pack more in less amount of time, right? And there's so much that you could do in a shorter session. Just in general, with us at Flexus Fitness, we don't believe in like hour-long workouts. If somebody wants to do an hour-long workout because they enjoy it, cool. But majority of the women that we work with don't have necessarily that length of time. Like during one session, it's just long between, warm up, shower, all of that. So usually they're about 30 to 40 minutes, right? So there's so much in general that you could do during a shorter session. And if you're traveling, and let's say you don't have access to a gym, you don't have access to your usual equipment, there's so much that you could simply do even just using your own body weight, right? Body weight, or bring resistance bands, or even just filling up like a bag with books. We literally have some women use like laundry detergent, during the pandemic, especially, we had to get very creative with household objects, and it all works. And the thing is, something is better than nothing during this time of the year, right? So if you could get a quick workout in, even if it's like 5 to 10 minutes, even if it's exercise snacks throughout the day, do it. If it's twice a week, it's again like, every time you go to the walk, doing some squats, some push-ups, whatever the case. Awesome. Breakfast isn't perfect, but you're traveling and you brought some bone broth with you, or protein powder, packets, things like that. That still counts, right? You don't lose momentum by doing less. You lose momentum by doing nothing. And the kicker is, if you wait until January, right? If you say, oh, you know what, there's a lot coming up, I'm just going to put my health on pause, I'm just going to put everything on pause, then you're going to feel like you're starting from scratch come January 1st. And like, on the other hand, if you keep going, keep moving, Even if it feels inconsistent, even if it doesn't feel like your usual routine, you're going to still be rolling into January with some momentum and confidence and self-trust because you kept acting on the promises that you made to yourself. So that's basically it for this first point, is like, just keep the promises that you make to yourself. They compound, especially during this time of the year. There's always opportunity to do something versus doing nothing. Now, the second thing is, and this is a big one, is focusing on the 21 meals that you do control. And I'm kind of generalizing it here. 21 meals. I'm saying, like, 3 meals a day, 7 days throughout the week. Perhaps that looks a little different for you if you have snacks. Like, I eat 5 times a day, right? It looks a little different for everybody, but let's just focus on meals, right? So breakfast, lunch, dinner, 21 meals per week. This time of year, people tend to obsess over 1 or 2 holiday meals. Okay, there's more than that, right? But let's just talk about, let's say, like, Thanksgiving coming up, right? So Thanksgiving next week, that, yeah, holiday meal, and then they forget about the 21 meals that they eat throughout the rest of the week, right? Or perhaps you have friends giving too, right? Maybe you're celebrating on Wednesday or Friday or whatever the case with a different group of people. So maybe there's a couple of holiday meals, but let's not forget about the rest of the meals that you do have more control over throughout the rest of the week, right? So that actually determines how you feel. And it's never the big dinners or the big events that throw you off. It's typically the irregular, the skipped meals, and the rushed meals before and after. So here's just something to keep in mind. We always want to focus on anchoring your biology, right? So not restricting your food. You don't improve how you handle more by restriction and by extremes. You go about this, how should you approach it when it comes to the food aspect? Well, first off, continuing to eat regularly. So not skipping meals. And this is something that a lot of women, during this time of year, naturally, they think, okay, well, I'm having a big meal tonight. I'm going to eat less throughout the day to, bank my calories, save my calories. But what this does is, by skipping meals throughout the day, is that throws off your blood sugar, and that increases cravings. It impacts your energy levels. It, leads to overeating later on. I don't know about you guys, but whenever I've done that in the past and I show up to an event and I'm hangry, it's not it's not a good feeling, right? It's not a good look. I don't want to be like, just attacking the food once I get there. Like, that's never my style anyways, but that's how I've always felt when I've done that years ago in the past, when I used to, like, bank my calories, is I would show up somewhere and end up actually overeating because I was starving. So again, you're not aiming to be perfect. You just want to keep that stability. So eating regularly throughout the day, front loading your day with some protein, and then at night, just making, choices that make you feel good and enjoying the food that you want to enjoy. And that meal is not going to throw everything off, but it's what you do in and around that one meal that typically does throw a lot of people off. The second thing is adding protein however you can, right? Whenever you can, however you can. Again, not perfectly, but more often than not, right? So things like eggs, yogurt, deli chicken or turkey, cottage cheese, tuna packets, bone broth packets that you could travel with, protein powder, um, you know, things like that are easily accessible. And especially if you're traveling and you're visiting family, or you're staying in a hotel or whatever the case, having these things accessible as simple protein sources. Because, for example, if you're traveling and maybe you're staying with family that may not eat as much protein as you do, then at least you could load up with, the protein powder, the bone broth, even protein bars, just to make sure that you are hitting your protein goals as best as you can. And again, protein, like, increasing protein isn't about dieting. It's, again, just making sure that we're keeping things stable, right? So aiming to have a source of protein every meal should be your focus, just to keep things stable. It's not to, don't think of it in terms of like, oh, I need to do this to lose weight. I need to do this to, gain muscle. Just think of it as, I need to do this to make sure that I stay stable and support my body best during this time of the year. And the last thing when it comes to the food aspect is look at patterns, not perfection. So if most of your meals are coming from a place of intention, you're good. Like that's like a few fun meals, a few off, like I don't like to say off, but a few meals that are like out of your ordinary, out of your routine, they're not going to undo everything. So you can't ruin progress with one meal, one dinner, even one day or one weekend. Yes, like if you do weigh yourself, then after a weekend of, eating maybe higher sodium foods or eating out or eating more sugar than usual, yes, like expect the scale to go up a bit, but that's not going to undo all your progress. Just continue to focus on supporting yourself throughout the rest of the week, right? The 21 meals throughout the rest of the week that you do have more control over, and your body will thank you. So those are like the simplest things. And like when it comes down to the food aspect too, just another thing to keep in mind is like, I always like to look at it as how am I going to feel after eating this? And honestly, sometimes guys, like there's certain foods where I'm like, you know what? I'm probably not going to feel that great after eating it. But it just, it's good for the soul, right? It's, maybe cookies that your favorite aunt makes one time throughout the year at Christmas, right? Or during Thanksgiving, it's the stuffing, whatever the case, right? Like pick that food and just be mindful of like, okay, I'm having this because I want to enjoy it, I want to savor it, I want to be mindful of it. But if you're just there and you're like, oh, like I'm gonna eat all this because tomorrow I'm gonna start from fresh and like I'm gonna have to go back to eating clean, go back on my diet, then you're going to end up overeating. So make sure that you're coming from a place again of attention, being mindful of it, and just how you want to feel afterwards. And the last point, so the last thing is you want to support your whole system. That's what we're all about here, right? And this holiday season, this season just in general does increase stress load, and it's not just like emotionally, but biologically, right? You may have more decisions to make, more people that you're socializing with, more rushing, right? There's more stimulation because again, you're socializing more, there's more events. Perhaps more late nights, your sleep routine is being thrown off, different food, right? More alcohol, more desserts, like there's just less stress structure in general, right? And all of that does affect your entire nervous system, right? So when your nervous system is more overloaded, your digestion will slow down. Your cravings do increase. There is that change in sleep patterns that could affect like just your overall sleep quality. Inflammation can go up a bit, right? Could rise. Your body has a hard time recovering because there's extra stressors. Like if you think about a bucket, like you're adding all these stressors on your body, that's going to impact your body's ability to recover. And again, like it's most women in general blame the food, right? And they go like, oh, it's the holiday food, and like that's the reason why I feel this way. But the real problem is a combination of things, and it's really the real problem is that your system is more stimulated, right? And instead of trying to like I'm not gonna sit here and tell you guys like, oh, you got to meditate for an hour or you got to do all these things to reset your nervous system. That's not what this is about. But just focus on tiny little resets that allow you to just stay more stable, right? More regulated. So what that could look like is again, even just something as simple as 5 minutes of movement throughout your day. Like I was saying before, if you don't have time for a full workout, just commit to like little exercise snacks. A 5-minute movement could look like a quick walk, or just taking some time doing a couple of like hip openers, a little mini mobility routine. We give that to a lot of the women that we work with, little 5-minute resets. Perhaps like I said, like going to the washroom, doing some squats, doing some push-ups, like things like that. Having those little movement breaks actually helps to just stabilize your energy and release stress, right? Like motion is lotion, right? And that's it for all aspects of your body, right? Another thing is something that I've personally started to doing is just like, especially before starting your day, picking up your phone, is just doing some breathing every time you're about to like scroll through your phone. Like just take a second, just like do some breath work, 60 breaths. That helps to settle your system before your day even starts. The other thing too is, as much as possible, protect your sleep, right? Protect that the sleep routine as much as possible. So putting your phone down earlier, dimming lights, calming, like just having a little wind down routine, especially if you've had a busy back-to-back day. Sleep is going to be your number one recovery tool. And the last thing is like taking those micro breaks, right? So step outside, like I said, take 60 breaths, like these little, it doesn't seem like much, but these little micro habits compound. Excuse yourself to go to the bathroom. And again, like just to like take a couple of deep breaths, reset. And this is just again about protecting your physiology, protecting your biology. And it's when your system is more regulated, everything does become easier. And this is even something that you could get your family involved with, right? Like after a holiday lunch or a holiday brunch or a holiday dinner, like go for a walk, go do an activity with your family, right? Like get them involved and inspire others around you. Or before eating, like, just all sit there and like express some gratitude and take 60 breaths. Like these are all things that you could get others around you, make sure that they're involved with it too. And when your system is regulated, everything does become easier, right? Your mood, your energy, again, your digestion, your food choices, your consistency in general. So, but as we go into this season, and I'm going to be doing other talks about this too, but like considering Thanksgiving for those of you in the States is next week, I figured this was a good, just little reminder, overall reminder. But as we go into this season, just be kind to yourself. Don't be a hole to yourself. Be flexible, focus on what you can do, not what you think you should be doing. Okay, don't should on yourself. And small efforts during the holidays are something that do compound, I promise you. And they matter far more than being perfect and waiting to be perfect in January. So the women that do keep these promises to themselves, no matter how little, how inconsistent, but they still show up, they still get it done, even if it's loosely, they always feel their best come January. So, and like if you're somebody right now who's like you feel like you want help, applying this to your life, your biology, your hormones, your routine, just implementing this in a way that just ties everything together, and you want to learn how to go about this in a way that you can keep up when life does get busy, life does get messy, life does get chaotic, just comment below or send me a DM saying holiday. I'll walk you through what that could look like for you. And whether you're interested in working with us one-on-one, how we could support you with that, so that you're making sure that you're crushing this last bit of 2025 and walking into 2026 just feeling empowered and in control and ready to crush the following year. So until next time, you guys, I hope you have a wonderful week. And for those of you who are in the States, wishing you a wonderful Thanksgiving with you and your loved ones if you do celebrate, of course. And until next time, support your biology, give your body the love and leadership it deserves. And I'll see you next time. Take care, guys.